shade my face a little bit too low. Be looking kind of funny and stuff. Try to clean my beard and everything up. Take it down to one length. But anyway, so the discussion continues. This thing is taking on the life of its own, boy. This whole FBA stuff, man. This Fat Joe, FBA, Foundational Black American, African American, the whole discussion of music, hip hop, has taken on a life of its own. But this is what I wanted to say about why I don't agree with the term African American. African American, I kind of touched on this in my last video, but I'm going to go deeper into it. So African American is kind of equivalent to being a fatherless child, African American, when you really think about it. So they gave us African American, like I said on my last video. Black people in America, foundational Black Americans, and if you want to include the native, quote unquote, American Indian, quote unquote, like I said, quote unquote, that's what they, Native American Indian, are the only people in America. I might go so far as to say the only people in the world, foundational Black Americans. I can't say the world because if you're in a different country, then that's where you're already at. But definitely I'll say the only people in America, outside of, like I said, quote unquote, Native Indian American, who can't pick up the phone or get on a boat or get on a plane or do any of that and connect with some other people from a different country. All the Puerto Ricans I know and have ever known, all the Jamaicans I have ever known, the Guyanese, Belizeans, this, that, they all have the ability to get on the phone or, like I said, get on a plane, get on a boat, get on whatever, and have already direct connection with some people from a different country, from their lineage, from where they're from. Black people are the only people in America who can't do that. I mean, look, we can do that, but where we do that at is we go down south. That's where we do that at. South in America, not South America. I'm talking about South United States. That's where most of our lineage comes from. My lineage comes from Florida. My family is from northern Florida and Kentucky. That's where I'm from, my family. So yeah, Black people can do that, foundational Black Americans, but it's still only in the United States. So that's why the term is necessary. That's why I say African American is like set you up to have a void in life. You know what I'm saying? Anybody you know who don't have a dad or didn't know their dad or didn't grow up, their dad didn't grow up around them, stuff like that, most people would tell you that it leaves like a void in their life. You know, so I'm not saying me and my dad was around, never lived with my dad, but my dad was always not too far away. You know what I'm saying? Even through his trials and tribulations, he still was around. But for people who didn't have a father growing up or didn't know their father, that's like the equivalent of what an African American is. Because basically you're telling somebody, this is where you're from, this is what this is, but you have no connection to it. We don't know how to get involved with it. There's no way I have never in my life, the whole entire life I've been alive, have never known one person in America, not one, who was able to get on the phone and contact the people they come from in Africa. Never knew one Black American who was able to get on a plane or a boat and go to Africa to visit their family or whatever you want to call it. Never, not once, not one time have I ever seen that. And like I said, Puerto Ricans, they just cooked my live off. Now I'm back. So I just wanted to clarify that real quick why African American to me it never really made too much sense. We don't have and somebody on the other thing came and said about or your blood and all your DNA. Everybody on the goddamn face of the earth, allegedly, DNA goes back to Africa. So, and this is not no disrespect to the people who still feel as they call themselves African American. If you identify with that, then that's all good. Like I'm not even saying that's a problem. You know, I'm not even saying nothing's wrong with it. I'm not need to stop doing African American and do FBA. I'm not even saying that. You know what I'm saying? Whatever makes you feel better about yourself, I'm all for it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to say nobody, but the problem is the FBA thing. This is the first time that black folks named ourselves something. And this is where I think a lot of this FBA backlash and a lot of the problems come in too, because the whole FBA thing, like we said, Tariq Nasheed made the term. I've been on it watching it for years at this point, so I'm not a newcomer to it. I got videos on here talking about FBA situations years ago. You know what I'm saying? So I've been up on it. But here's where, there's another thing. This Fat Joe situation, I won't be surprised if he's FBI was put out here on some FBI stuff, because those are words that you hear government. For once in my life, heard a black person, a Puerto Rican person, or even a white person in regular life use the word radical. That only comes from media and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? News sources, and you never heard somebody come out here and say radical, because once you start using words like radical, you really are trying to put people into a whole different thing. You know what I'm saying? So that him saying radical, and then that is, I don't know, man. Something about that is real weird. And this is what I was about to say with the whole thing where the FBA situation took a wrong turn, as far as where people like Fat Joe are trying to attack it in this sense. Because like I said, I've been here and watching Tariq Nasheed for years. You know what I'm saying? So I've been familiar with the term FBA. They just keep kicking my live off like non-stop. I don't know what it looks to y'all, but my shit keep getting disconnected. Like I was saying, I don't know if y'all heard this part. So the term FBA started coming to light really with the whole discussion of the creation of hip hop. Fat Joe and them, and Tariq Nasheed was by name coming at Fat Joe and certain stuff, because he was out. Fat Joe and them Crazy Legs and was out here pushing the narrative about the whole Latino thing. So that's when this kind of started coming about. And then the next thing that happened was Fat Joe aligns himself with Kamala Harris and all them. You know what I'm saying? Because, and also he's doing the BET. So he has been kind of positioning himself, or being positioned as a person who was, I guess you could say, a op. You know what I'm saying? He already been going that route, all that type of stuff. So then when Kamala Harris lost, that was like a real hard blow to people like Fat Joe and all these people who came out caping for Kamala. And you know what I'm saying? Like going that route, that really was like a hard blow. So with that in the atmosphere of him losing, because this is a loss for him, D.L. Hewley, Fat Joe, all these other people that came out for Kamala Harris, this is a loss for all of them. You know what I'm saying? So now it's to the point where, and then the microphone check came out, dispelled all those lies and rumors. So at this point, Fat Joe was just like, God damn, he just took an L he got hit in every direction. He took an L from every single dude. He's just getting punched all over. So now this thing with this math office situation comes out. So like I said, here's where the FBA thing comes in. And this is why I feel like he may be an FBI plant. They might have put him out there to say this, because as all this culminated, the hip hop, this and that, he tied in the whole FBA term with all of that. You know what I'm saying? And then to go so far as bringing the racism and the radical thing into it. So now it sounds, now what I'm saying is, now the term FBA, to anybody who's totally unfamiliar with it, sounds like it came about on some racist, FBAs hate everybody else. It makes it sound like that's how it came into play. When in reality, the term FBA has been out way before this Fat Joe situation came along, way before the 50th anniversary of hip hop. Years this thing has been going on. Now she's been saying this FBA for years now. But if you're not familiar with it, it would look like it just came about now. So now the term to use against people who think they're want to be going against Latinos or whoever else, now the term is like FBA is now like a terrorist organization. They're trying to paint it as, if you follow what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Which is some straight up BS. To be FBA, like I said, it means your foundation, your lineage is from America. black people in America. Some people use the term ADOS. Some people still use the term African American, just Black American, whatever you want to call it. That's all that is. Ain't nothing nefarious about it. And look, there's another thing I'm gonna add in there. Since I've been young, all the Puerto Ricans I have ever known, I don't think I'm even going out on the limb if I say 90% of Puerto Ricans that I ever known have always had a Puerto. They keep turning my live off. Now I'm back. I don't know if y'all ever heard that last part. I wasn't looking at the phone if it went out or not. Like I was saying, more than half or more than most of Puerto Ricans have always had a Puerto Rican flag hanging from the rearview mirror of their car that I have ever known always growing up to this day. Same thing with Jamaicans, you know what I'm saying, or whoever else. Me growing up with Puerto Ricans and I never had any kind of animosity towards Puerto Ricans, but seeing the flag that never bothered me. I never was like, oh, they got a Puerto Rican flag hanging up. That much, it never bothered me, not even one bit. There was never a time when I was like, why do they got a Puerto Rican flag up? Why did they got a Jamaican flag? I never was bothered by that one bit. If anything, that make me look say these are people who are in touch with their roots. You know what I'm saying? They're proud of who they are. Like, how is that a problem? Because black folks are calling ourselves foundational Black Americans. Obviously, his numbers and stuff are played with. You know what I'm saying? Or just like let one of his videos go untouched. Yo, there was like 80,000 people in his live chat the one day. Like 80,000 people. For whatever reason, they must have slipped up and forgot to press the shadow ban button, or forgot to, you know what I'm saying, do the conniving, janky stuff, whatever they did. And I was like, I watched this for myself. Matter of fact, I even screen recorded part of it because I was like, it was like 80,000 people in there at one point. But if you watch him on a regular day, on a regular 1,000 people in there, they'll show you. But in reality, there's really probably 50 to 100,000 people watching him all the time live. You know what I'm saying? And this is not like no caping for Tariq Nasheed thing, but I've been watching Tariq Nasheed for years, so I ain't going to act like I haven't. You know what I'm saying? I respect a lot of stuff he does. He brings a lot of valuable information to the table. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, so they bought. So I seen that, and I was like, let me park up. I'm about to go in here real quick. And they forgot to press the shadow ban button, and it showed you how many people was actually in his live watching, in his live chat. And the same thing with the whole Kamala Harris situation. They want to act like they having polls and videos, and they try to have what do you call it? All type of stuff how Kamala Harris lost. And first of all, I don't believe in election stuff anywhere and all that type of stuff. But if you are counting the numbers, because they trying to say, oh, the black people who voted for Kamala was this and that. Yeah, they're talking about the black people who voted. She still got the majority black vote. What they're not talking about is the black people who said, you know what, I'm not even voting. I'm not even participating in this nonsense. That's where that's what they're not telling you about. That's where a lot of the FBAs are standing at. They try to make it seem like, oh, the majority of the black men that voted, 80%, whatever it was, that's true. Because they're talking about the people who voted. They're not talking about the people who didn't vote. The people who would have pushed her forward, who might have pushed her across the thing. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're not talking about. So like I was saying about the flag and stuff, I don't got a problem with that. So why do people got a problem? And this is another thing I noticed. Here's something else I noticed too. A lot of jokers, man, a lot of people from all type of melanated people who aren't FBA showed their true colors over the past like week, I'll say. You know what I'm saying? A lot of jokers came out here running their mouth wrong and strong, wrong and strong and wrong. Running their mouth, you know what I'm saying? Hardcore type stuff. Showing their true colors, you know what I'm saying? And that's all good. Like I said, for me, the reason I align with the FBA term, why it makes sense to me, 5 years ago, I might not been that on it like it was that necessary. But when the pandemic happened, I was a realtor before the pandemic. Became a realtor in 2017. It was going good. I had good momentum. I ain't gonna say I was to the point where I can totally take care of my life only on real estate at that point. But every year that I started from 2017 up to the pandemic, well, I was making progress every step, every year, getting more and more business. But then the pandemic hit, and when the pandemic hit, if you know about the housing, it messed everything up. You know what I'm saying? It just exposed a lot of stuff, and so real estate for me didn't work out. So after that, around 2020, 2021, I went into a time frame where I was working in mad different warehouses, like something I didn't plan on ever doing. Like I worked in a couple stuff over the years, but in the course of like 2 years, I worked in mad different warehouses out here in Pennsylvania, the Allentown area, Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton, Lehigh Valley, whatever you want to call it. I started seeing a pattern. I talked about this before. All these warehouses were filled with foreigners from all over. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna get into the whole thing, but foreign melanated foreigners from all kind of different countries is what the warehouses were filled with. And this is when Trump was still president. And this is a time when even the stuff with Trump talking about the like even to that, I don't know how much I can really buy into that, because Trump was president then, and there was immigrants that had taken over. You know what I'm saying? The work field, Walmart, Amazon, CNS Wholesale, the radio, all these big places where all the so-called American companies are all being worked by mostly immigrants when I was there. So this is where the whole FBA thing started making sense to me. And this is where colorism is different than racism. You realize that colorism is like, yeah, sometimes me being light skinned, I got my own colorism thing. I can go into a whole thing with that. It's a whole different subject. But here's where you know that lineage comes into play, and lineage matters. Me being a light skinned person who's often mistaken to be Latino I have always been mistaken like that. I think me, more than a lot of other regular darker skinned, melanated, foundational Black Americans, have seen stuff that a lot of, like I said, darker people don't see. If you come to one of these work sites that are like that, or one of these type of situations, and you're just regular Black, because you also got to understand too, amongst immigrants, even Haitian immigrants who are melanated, who look regular Black, even some Dominicans look regular Black. I was mistaken a bunch of times thought they was regular Black people, but a lot of them have a certain dress code. They can spot each other from a mile away. When you come around them, even if you look regular Black, they can see if you got on like Pumas. That's a big immigrant thing. This is what it is. Though a lot of them wear Pumas, you know what I'm saying, sneakers. So that's like one way of identifying if this person is from a foreigner. Yeah, some niggas wear Pumas too, FBA, like some of us wear, but I'm talking about this is like the dress code for immigrants, melanated immigrants. Pumas, certain kind of like Gucci stuff that really is not really associated with be like the knockoff. It's like certain colors, so they can identify that from the door. So the way they might approach a regular foundational Black American who's darker than me, they already see it. But me, a lot of times they think I'm Latino, so they approach me different. So I was able to see the shift in real time, the whole thing from the transition of somebody approaching me with welcoming arms, thinking I'm them, to them finding out I'm not them and then switching up. That's what I'm trying to say. I had like a unique, I guess, insight to that just because I'm light skinned. And like I said, I seen more times than a couple over and over that this is an actual thing. You know what I'm saying? Even people, like a lot of the Haitians or dudes from Jamaica who were coming there, they would align with the Latinos from South America and stuff like that who was working at these places over a regular a person like me, foundational Black American, because at that point it's about lineage. You know what I'm saying? It's about lineage and race or descendants of or whatever like that. It wouldn't, the skin color don't matter. I kind of went somewhere different than I was trying to go, you know what I'm saying? But trying to put into I'm saying complex into terms of why, to me, person like me, foundational Black American, makes sense. Now, had I not went through all this stuff I'm talking about, these warehouses I was working at and all these experiences, the foundational Black American term to me might not have been that big of a deal as far as like not that necessary. You know what I'm saying? Like I might have heard it, might have sounded cool. And that would have just been that. I might not have felt like it was something that was like super necessary. So and even I told people like my mom or somebody like situation, people like even her are like totally oblivious to the fact you never worked in, like you don't even see that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, but me going through that personally myself, direct experiences going through that. It enlightened me to like, yeah, shit is not what I thought it was. You know what I'm saying? And that's not to demonize all anybody, because me, I'm always coming from a defensive standpoint. I'm never on some aggressive, offensive. That's never where I'm coming from. Even with this whole Fat Joe and Latinos and Puerto Rican stuff, I ain't got no problem with Puerto Ricans. No problem. Like it's never me. I'm speaking for myself. I ain't speaking for everybody else. I'm just saying for me, because that's not what I'm just not on that. You know what I'm saying? I'm the kind of person I could be cool with anybody who's cool with me. White, black, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Jamaican, whatever. I'm just not. I'm just not that kind of person at heart. Even that most of the problems I ever had in my life, I usually wasn't the person that started them. You know what I'm saying? I might have had a time where I went through certain whatever, but nine times out of 10, any problems I had, I wasn't the person who was starting the problem. I'm a joker that just like to see everybody get along. I'm about being cool, peace. I don't want no trouble. Laid back. That's just who I am at the core. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, FBA is necessary. The term young foundational Black American is necessary. You know what I'm saying? And it should be. And anybody who's not respecting it really shows you that they're really on some racist stuff. Everybody else can have a flag about where they're from. They can dangle their flag from their rearview mirror, have all the pride and this and that, and it's not a problem. But the minute foundational Black American people have our own thing, it's a problem. It's not like people are. I speak for myself. I'm not saying foundational Black American and fuck everybody else. I'm just saying, yeah, I represent. It makes sense to me to call myself a foundational Black American. There's a lot of other stuff tied to it. There's the whole reparation stuff. A lot of it came. That's a whole different story, though. Like I said, before this whole Fat Joe stuff came along and this Puerto Rican thing that's going on, before all this stuff came along, the term foundational Black American was already at play. I do understand how, if you just heard about it for the first time now, that you can misconstrue foundational Black American with negativity if you're trying to, because you're being thrown all this stuff. If you're listening to a person like Fat Joe, if you're just coming into this conversation now, I do understand how you can misconstrue it because the way it's being presented. Like I said, Fat Joe talking this radical word and shit like that. That's spooky to me. That's some COINTELPRO, J. Edgar Hoover. You know what I'm saying? That's some other stuff. I don't know what Fat Joe was on talking that radical, using the word radical. That's like political. You know what I'm saying? He's taking it to a whole different type of. That's a whole different aspect. That's not even. That's a whole different thing. You know what I mean? So I can understand how a person might be misconstrued by accident coming to it right now and hearing about it right now. I can understand that. But that's not what it is. I promise you that's not what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like I said before in another video, foundational Black American, there's traders in foundational Black American, there's coons in foundational who are foundational Black American. There's foundational Black American, it got nothing to do with even being what kind of code you, none of that. You know what I'm saying? You're either a foundational Black American or you're not. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of so-called other quote unquote Black leaders or whatever are salty right now. I see a lot of people are jealous of Tariq Nasheed. Like, I ain't gonna sit there and say names, but I can pick it up on vibes on, because a lot of people who got their own little thing going on, have been whatever, are kind of jealous that this foundational Black American term has taken off like that, because like I said, it's been shadow banned for so. I'm not saying it's Tariq Nasheed. I'm just saying in general. But now the way this stuff has come out with so much aggression, and it started with the Kamala Harris thing, whether they wanted to admit it or not. You know what I'm saying? That's where the whole public display of, you know what I'm saying, unity with the foundational Black American thing has kind of showed itself. But now with this Fat Joe situation, it's like a different level. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of other people who speak on black issues and stuff like that are definitely salty and definitely jealous, and I can see it. Couple of jokers who I watch, you know what I'm saying, and listen to. And that's corny. I think that's whack. You know what I'm saying? Then you have people like Sarah Sutanseti who his focus hasn't been certain terms and certain stuff, but a person like who's seen what it is, sees, you know what I'm saying, and jumped on board, like, you know what, and went hard with what's going on, because it's not about the messenger or the this and that. It's just about what's right. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I respect people like Sarah Suit and Seti and them who might not have been using certain words or terms, or but saw what it is. The issue is bigger than just some petty wordplay and want to go back and forth, and wrote and got and is on board with it. You know what I'm saying? Pushing it like, yeah, this is what it is. All right, this is what the people is with. Let's ride with this then. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of people ain't like that. A lot of, like I said, other so-called black quote unquote leaders are feeling salty right now. They feel like, because everybody's using the foundational black American term, they feel like Tariq Nasheed is ahead of them and got one up on them. They can feel like that or not, whatever it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's corny that people are not like behind it because they didn't come up with the term, or people had never showed that much interest in what they're saying. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to say. So I don't know, man. This thing has went far. Like I said, this thing has taken on a mind of its own. Say, cool, people leave a message in the chat. Shout out to you, whoever y'all are. A couple of people hit the like button before you get up out of here. But this thing, man, and I've been on here way longer than I'm playing, so like people watch on the playback. So I'm gonna just say this part again real quick, because people ain't gonna watch this long anyway if you do go on the playback, whatever. But like I said in the beginning, the reason why African American, the term African American to me, it's kind of like a fatherless child. It's kind of like being in a home without a father, the term African American. Because the term African American can only allow you to kind of go but so far. For some people accept it and it works for them, and that's cool. I ain't saying that. But I'm just saying, for a person like me, I can see where the void, it's like creates a void. Like, Africa, all this place, we hear a lot of great stuff about Africa as far as certain things and certain people, whatever. But then it's like, but us as black people in America, we can't get on a plane and go to Africa like how Puerto Ricans all the time go to Puerto Rico, and how Jamaicans can go to Jamaica to see their people. Guyanese can go to Guyana to see their people. Belizeans can go to Belize to see their people. Belize to see their people. Costa Rica can go to, like, every other person in America can get on a plane and go back to their origin of country and see their family. Black people in America can't do that. There's not one black person I ever met who can get on the phone and even call a person in Africa who they didn't meet as a friend, who just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have never in my life seen one black person in America who can call up a family member in any part of Africa, any country in Africa, Congo, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Cameroon. There's not one black person I have never met in life who was able to get on a phone and call a relative up in Africa. I never even seen that. Not one black American in my life. You know what I'm saying? So that right there kind of creates a void for a person who identify themselves as African American, because it's like, all right, you just from this place, Africa, you ain't got no connection to it. You can say DNA, but every goddamn person on the face of the earth, like they say, is derived from Africa, technically. You know what I'm saying? So it makes sense to a person like me to be a foundational black American. Yeah, we can do that. We can get on the phone. We can travel, but where we're going is to South United States. We're going to Florida. We're going to Kentucky, Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi. That's where our stuff starts at. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna just leave that at that. And I think there was one other thing, but I can't think of it right now. As far as this whole FBA thing is concerned, I would hope that people don't take the FBA thing the wrong way. I mean, if you do, you do. It is what it is. But it's not about, regardless of what Fat Joe or anybody try to come out here using terms like radical and stuff like that, that's not what it's about. Are there radical people FBA? Yeah. There's radical Puerto Ricans. There's radical white folks. There's radical Belizeans. There's radical Asians. Everybody got good and bad people in their group. Everybody got that. You know what I'm saying? But don't try to sit here and take the term foundational Black American and lineage of Black people in America. And like I said too, there's another thing that's important. Foundational Black Americans are the only people in America, if you except if you want to count the American Indian, quote unquote, the Native American Indian, outside of them, and foundational Black Americans are the only people in America who are not immigrants. Don't ever let people be like, oh, everybody in America is an immigrant. Foundational Black Americans in America are not immigrants. Some people believe foundational Black Americans were already in America. Some people believe that foundational Black Americans come from Africa who were brought here on the transatlantic slave trade. Some people believe a mixture of both or either one. Either one of those scenarios is not an immigrant, especially nowadays when we got terms like migrant. You know what I'm saying? Especially when we got terms like migrant, which all of a sudden, I guess, differentiates a person who came here illegally or illegally. An immigrant came here illegally, a migrant is illegal. So if we're going to be that goddamn technical about little words and taking off an I-M in front of a word because it makes that little bit of difference, then we got to get technical and say Black people are not no immigrants because, for one, we were kidnapped and bought here. If you believe the transatlantic slave trade thing, we were kidnapped. So yeah, that you can't say an immigrant's a kidnapped because you can even differentiate a legal immigrant from an illegal immigrant by calling them a migrant or immigrant. So yeah, we're not immigrants or migrants. We're none of that. We were kidnapped and bought here. If you go by the transatlantic slave trade term or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, we're not immigrants in no sense of the word. That's another thing that differentiates foundational Black Americans from everybody else in America. Like I said, unless you want to include the whole Native American Indian thing, quote unquote, which is a whole different discussion and a whole different story, which I don't want to get into all that. That's a whole different thing. So yeah, we can't get on the phone, we can't get in the plane, we can't get nowhere and go to another country and have people waiting for us like everybody else in America can do. Ireland, Italian, Jamaican, Puerto Rican, which a lot of Puerto Ricans are actually Americans. You know what I'm saying? A lot of Puerto Ricans are actually their descendants are from they're derived from Puerto Rico, but most Puerto Ricans were born, not most, but a lot of Puerto Ricans were born in America anyway. But that's a whole different discussion too. But even them can get on the plane or a phone and be in contact with people who are in Puerto Rico. Puerto Ricans who are born in America still can get on the phone and contact Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico and have somewhere to go tonight if they needed to. Black people are the only ones, foundational Black Americans are the only ones who don't got that. So why would it make sense for us to say we're African American? We can't get on a phone, a plane, or a boat and contact nobody in Africa, no country in Africa that we're related to. If they say the history been wiped out, Black folks say that, white folks say that, history books tell us that, the history. If you want to go that route with it, history been wiped out and go that route, then again, that still makes sense for us to say, all right, you know what, let's disconnect from all that and build on the stuff that we can, you know what I'm saying, the facts that we can prove, the facts that we can resonate with in America and build on that. Because why does it still make sense to keep building on this African thing if we can't tell you nothing about it besides what was told to us in the book? And a lot of brothers have done extensive history on Africa. A lot of it's good information and it makes sense and it's acceptable and stuff like that. I'm not saying turn away from it. I ain't saying disregard it. All I'm saying is carry that with you too, but ain't nothing wrong with also being a foundational Black American, and you can still hold on to the African thing if you want. You know what I'm saying? Nothing wrong with none of that. So that's all I'm saying, man. Like, at the end of the day, because what I don't want to see is a big division come from this whole thing that's going on with foundational Black Americans and Puerto Ricans, or foundational Black Americans and Jamaicans, or foundational Black Americans and all the other groups, because it's not about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where it don't need to go that way. And like they say, if a hit dog hollers, I feel like if you're bothered by the FBA thing, then it shows who you really are. You know what I'm saying? It shows that you're a racist deep down inside, because what's wrong with us saying we're foundational Black Americans? Everybody else got their flag. They can put their flag up in their rearview mirror. They got their flags all over their goddamn social media. So I don't understand where the problem is. Like, I don't understand why people are bothered by this, man. like I said, the only leeway I give people is that if you just came into this whole thing, if you had absolutely have never heard of the term FBA, that type of, and you only were introduced to it, and you never heard of the whole Fat Joe controversy with FBA and all the stuff he been doing. If you never heard of none of that or not familiar with none of that, and you come into the term with all this at one shot with the FBA thing, and you come in and respecting Fat Joe for who he is because you think he is who he is, you didn't hear about his controversy, and all this is hitting you at one point, like boom, and you hear Fat Joe say this, I can understand why you might be like, yeah, whatever how it sounds, because you're. Look, there's another thing I want to say. There's like a perfect opportunity, like how when Nick Cannon and Professor Griff, they had to get sat down because they said the wrong thing and they had to get educated. And these people want to come and you got to sit down and take a class. You got to get educated because you weren't educated. And this is a perfect thing in those same terms. This is where you can get educated of what foundational Black American means and what foundational Black American is. This is a perfect time for us to also say the same thing to other groups. You're mistaken. Come get educated. You know what I'm saying? Like this, actually, I can actually see now when other people been using that whole thing with the whole, I don't even want to say the word, the JE people. You say something that's slightly wrong. Oh, you got to get educated. You got to get sat down. And you got to get. This is a perfect opportunity to be educated about what FBA is. If you thought it was with the whole what Fat Joe was saying, that's not what it is. Trust and believe when I tell you. I've been paying attention to this stuff for years, way before this whole hip hop 50th anniversary came in, way before the whole discussion about hip hop and Latinos. Before all this, already been hearing Tariq Nasheed, already been familiar with the foundational Black American thing for years. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So if you're mistaken from that, there's a perfect opportunity to get yourself familiar. Like other people can sit people down when you said something wrong. That's kind of the time when we can kind of sit people down. Like, look, this is what it means. You might have came out here wrong and strong, running your mouth, out of pocket. You know what I'm saying? But let me tell you, this is what this really is. This ain't what you thought it was. This ain't what Fat Joe came out here on Math Office Show and, you know what I'm saying, said what you thought it was. If you just came in then, all right, you came in, you mistaken, you came in on the wrong point. This is what it really is. You know what I'm saying? So that's about it. This video done went on way much longer than I wanted to go on. I got shit to do. And that's about it, man. Shout out to anybody that came through. Hit the like button. YouTube messed my live up like a couple of times during this live. So I don't know how much of y'all might have missed or not, but I know I looked up a couple times and I was driving. It was like reconnected and disconnected and try again and all this crazy shit. So, but that's what it is, man. If you got a problem with FBA, you might be the problem. You might be the problem. Foundational Black American is just people who decide to name themselves as opposed to letting people tell us what we are. This makes sense to us. Tariq Nasheed made it, but this is bigger than Tariq Nasheed at this point. He can disappear tomorrow. I mean, much respect to Tariq Nasheed. He brought a lot to the table. I'm not taking away from his body work and stuff like that, but he can disappear tomorrow. They can take him out tomorrow. I'm not trying to speak that, but and it's too late because this has already caught. Like there's nothing that can be done at this point. I think we see it enough evidence over the past week. There's nothing that can be done to stop the ideology of the FBA ideology. That's all I'm saying. I ain't saying like the whole whatever you think it is. I'm just saying the FBA term and word. It's too late for that. So it don't even make sense to come out here and try to go against it because you're really just going to be showing your true colors. Because ain't nobody bothering. We ain't bothering. And we ain't bothering nobody. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's too late for that. It's already took grip. It already took a bite into it's already too late. It is what it is. So shout out to everybody who came through, man. Much love to everybody, all people, Puerto Ricans, Jamaicans, Dominicans, everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna sit there and let what Fat Joe said divide me from like unless you want to be divided, then I'll act accordingly. But I'm not out here on some I'm not taking that route. Like I got love for mad people. I got lifelong people. I grew up Puerto Ricans, white people, Jamaica. Like I'm not gonna all of a sudden now turn my back and act different. If people don't act different to me, I ain't gonna act no different to them. Still all love. It's still the same thing with me. If you want to be different, then I'll act accordingly. You know what I'm saying? But if nobody ain't switching up on me, I ain't switching up on them. And that's what all it is, man. So on that note, let me get up out of here.